Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today I'm going to be telling you some of the stories of how I met doctors, companions, and so much more. But before we get into it, if you could do me a teeny tiny little favour and click that subscribe button, I'd be ever so grateful. We're trying to get to 11,000 subscribers on this channel and we're less than 100 subscribers away. So that means that if just a small portion of the people watching this video subscribe, we'll probably make it within the next few days. So if you've been following me on Twitter, which if you haven't, you definitely should, you'll know that I was at Wales Comic Con in Telford yesterday, and I wanted to tell you some of the stuff that I got up to there. In the beginning of the event, things started off fairly slowly. It was basically just me sort of wandering around, trying to find people. I was meeting up with friends at the time, having a look at the stalls, taking in the sights. The place itself was massive, so essentially, right, you had a main foyer bit, which was kind of the entrance. It had a set of stairs and a ramp down to the main hall part, which is what you see in most of the pictures. So essentially, the beginning of my experience was just taking in all of the surroundings and figuring out where everything was, and processing the fact that, oh my god, Catherine Tate sat right there, what the hell? Once I had met up with a few friends, however, we started to do some signings. Now, obviously, I like to get things signed on occasion, so I'm going to show you a couple of things that I got signed. Starting off with this Remembrance of the Daleks special edition signed by Mr. Sylvester Mccoy. I don't know why I feel like I'm doing tally shopping, but there we are. Sylvester was such a nice guy. I kind of felt bad for him because he was sat like away from all the other doctors, so for the signing, people were in rows and then there were queues for each person. And Colin, Peter and Paul were all sat together. I think they were sat next to Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario, as well. Whereas Sylvester was just at the other end of the square, so I couldn't help but feel a bit sorry for the man. But he was absolutely lovely, an absolute gentleman, really fun. He's exactly like how you imagine him in the show. By that I mean he hasn't really changed since he was the Doctor. He still is that person. He's still full of energy. He was a really nice guy. Really enjoyed meeting him. Next up was Nicola Bryant, who I got to sign my Vengeance on Varos DVD. I don't even know whether you guys can see this, I'm just hoping you can. I already had Tom Baker sign this at an earlier con in Cardiff, so I thought I'd get Nicola to sign it as well, as it's one of my favourite classic Who stories. Vengeance on Varos, absolutely quality. We joked about how Colin filled up like 90% of the DVD case, and she said, oh, he expects me to just make a tiny little space. Once again, she was really nice. And then finally, I got Paul McGann to sign this picture from the TV movie. Paul was really lovely. When I was waiting in the queue, he was like, oh, come on, let's get the signing. I was like, oh, yeah, thanks, man. Let's go. He was really nice. I feel like most of this video so far is just me saying people were really nice, but I've got to be honest with you, I'm still so happy about everything that just happened, so apologies if there's not much drama yet. On the topic of other things I picked up, I saw a specific merchandise stand which was dedicated to like Doctor Who figures. Like there was a bunch of different Doctor Who figures, and you know me, if you can see the background, I like my Doctor Who figures a fair amount. So I decided to pick up this Dalek sack, which will be going on my shelf over there. You can't see it, but I have, you know, the Genesis art from Doomsday. I have that, and it's going to be sitting next to that. So the reason we did signings first was because the photo ops, which was like the main sort of attraction for me at least, were later in the day. So we sort of had to, you know, get signings first. We also, you know, took pictures with several different people, including I met Davros, a Cyberman. The story of the Cyberman picture, very funny. Essentially, we were trying to get the Cyberman's picture for a long time, but my friend John was dressed up as the 10th Doctor, and for lack of a better term, a 10th Doctor cult emerged, where they were getting every 10th Doctor they could find in like one picture. And there's this really funny picture online of just a sea of 10th Doctors, and then just me, the one 11th Doctor in the middle, which I just found really funny. But anyway, the reason it was funny with the Cyberman was because we were trying to get away from the photos eventually, and we saw the Cyberman leaving, and me and John had to chase him down the con. So you can imagine he's dressed as 10, I'm dressed as 11, and you've just got these two Doctors going full speed trying to catch this Cyberman. It genuinely felt like being in a Doctor Who episode. It was so weird. But yeah, I got the picture with him in the end. Really nice Cyberman. He didn't try and convert me, so that's a plus. I also met like several people from just online who I knew, such as Nerd Den, Hello Benjamin from Twitter. Really nice people. And a lot of you guys came up and said hello, which absolutely made my day. I was so happy. It was just really, really cool. Something I do have to give a shout out to is the staff. They were so helpful. As I'll get into in a minute, the queues for some of the photo ops and stuff like that was so long. Literally, for David Tennant's signatures, not the photo op. Well, the photo op had a big queue as well, but for the signatures, obviously, it's in the main hall. And literally, I didn't get a signature with Tennant, but like trying to get through that queue, it was kind of like, you know when Moses like partitions the sea to let people through? That was genuinely what it was like. That queue was mental. There's a picture of Peter Davidson with a sign being like, oh, yeah, he's not that special, guys. Which is just incredibly funny. Speaking of which, I think it's time we talk about some pictures. First of all, Peter Davison. Now, Peter Davidson's somewhat different from my other pictures because I didn't book a photo op with Peter, mainly because he got added last minute and I kind of just forgot to do it. But I think he kind of took pity on me because I was in the queue with my friend, and me and my friend kind of made a plan being like, look, if I say I'm your carer, then he might let you have a picture. And he did. And I don't know whether I should be admitting that online. Makes me look somewhat of a bad person, but it worked. And admittedly, you know, there's got to be some perks to it somewhere. What makes that even more funny, though, is that my friend John asked him for a selfie before I did because he'd seen someone else get one. And Peter went, a selfie? I don't know what that is. You've got to pay for a selfie. And I got one for free. So yeah, I felt like a bit of a scammer, but it worked. Next up, I suppose we should talk about some of the classic Doctors who I had photo ops with. So starting off last in the day were Colin and Sylvester. The reason I got to them last was essentially because the way it worked was there were studios for each photo op, and the photo ops had different times. So you had to work it around basically trying to get every single picture. Problem was, some overlapped. I think David Tennant might have overlapped with some of the classic Doctors, which is why I got to some of them later on. But I just managed to catch both Colin and Sylvester. Colin was an absolute Chad. He's an absolutely lovely man. He's absolutely brilliant. I genuinely believe his era is like incredibly underrated as well. I was literally like the last but one person to get to Colin, I think, and he was still just full of energy and excitement, which was really nice to see. Sylvester was wearing a face visor, but he was slightly more distanced, like his table was slightly larger, so I think he's social distancing, which is completely fair enough. But he was lovely too, and he recognised me from the signature, which was really cool. Next, we get to Paul McGann, and again, the man was just lovely. He brought his own sonic screwdriver. Like, normally, if you want them to pose for a picture with the sonic, you bring a sonic for them to hold, but he just had his own full-on metal one. He knew what the fans wanted, and he delivered. Like, Paul was just such a nice guy. He knelt down beside me for the picture, which was really cool. But then we come to, like, I would argue, like, big two in the, you know, they're the modern Who ones, so they're the ones everyone was queuing for ages for. Luckily, I was considered part of accessibility, so I got to skip the queues for both Catherine Tate and David Tennant, and I'm so glad I did, because even with that, there was still queuing in the accessibility bit, but it was nowhere near as bad as what some guys had to get, which is why I managed to get pictures with basically every Doctor that I booked, whereas for some people, they couldn't because, well, they didn't have time. But Catherine was really nice. She was like, oh yeah, you just sit wherever you want, I'll sort it out, and yeah, she was incredibly nice. Obviously, the interactions you have with them, at least for photo ops, are quite brief because they're getting through one after the other, but in the brief interactions I had with people, everyone was just so nice. As I said, you know, from the guests to the staff, I didn't have a bad experience with anyone. It was just incredible. But I know what you all came to this video for. You want to hear about my experience meeting the man, the myth, the legend, the 10th Doctor, David Tennant. Now, David Tennant's photo op was slightly different from the others in that he was literally dancing as he was doing them. Like, my guy was like having a full-on party in his photo booth section. It was incredible. He was really high energy. It's lucky that I got to him, I think, earlier. Maybe that energy was gone slightly afterwards, but he was like, oh yeah, let's do the pose. Come on, Doctor, let's do a pose. I was like, yeah, let's go. Some people have asked me if I asked him about the 60th. I didn't, mainly because, I'll be honest, I was nervous meeting David. Like, I wasn't nervous meeting anyone else. Like, Catherine was cool, and all the others were cool. But something about David just, like, that was just so weird to me. Like, I don't know whether it's because, like, I probably grew up with him more. Like, the two Doctors I'd say I grew up with were Tennant and Smith. Smith is my Doctor, but, you know, Tennant I also grew up with as well. So just seeing him in the flesh and having him be so, like, just nice and high energy and happy to see me. It was an incredible experience. But yeah, I just had a lovely, lovely time. I cannot stress to you enough how much I enjoyed Wales Comic Con, and if they hold another one next year, thoroughly recommend it. Like I said, it was just such a good vibe and atmosphere, and it just, to be honest, it like reminded me like why I love Doctor Who, and being a Doctor Who fan, like the community was also welcoming, everyone was so nice, at least to me, and it's honestly made me like happier than I've been in like ages. So genuinely, to Wales Comic Con, to everyone who organised it, thank you, it was an incredible day. But that's all I have to say on Wales Comic Con. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you later. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering what I thought about the Legends of the Sea Devils trailer, it was fine. I don't really have much to say on it. Some of the visuals look cool. It looks like it could be a fun episode. We'll see how it goes. Okay, I've said that now, so no one can ask me what I thought about the Legends of the Sea Devils trailer in the comments. Okay, bye! Shout out to Debs Iona, Shane Smith, Ree Keffin, Seb Lowndes, Jay Monroe, Hash Shandycoot, Patrick Mewson, Simon Ashley, Steve Safaro, and Andrew Townser. If you want to become a member, feel free to do so. It really helps out. You get exclusive posts, shout outs in every video, and even your own badge and custom emojis to use.